The 8 players who were jumping for joy on Friday evening began with number 1 seed Vincent Lemoine of Belgium. The 32-year-old with his 54 lifetime pro points was in his first top 8. He was joined by fellow European Nico Boni of Switzerland, former team world champion and here as a pro club level 3 member. Then it was the first of the Americans, Ben Stark, back after absence from the game for a few years, second at Grand Prix Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and now here in his third Pro Tour top 8. The second American was Patrick Chapin, the famous innovator from StarCityGames.com. Runner-up from Worlds in 2007, he'd built a fantastically entertaining Tezzeret deck. Third American, that's Paul Rietzel, 25, and he of course was the Pro Tour Amsterdam champion last year. Then they were joined by a fourth American, and it's been a while since that's happened, 28-year-old Tom Martell, living in the Bay Area now at his 5th Pro Tour, Pro Club level 5, 34 pro points for him. What about Japan? Well, Naoki Nakada made it in at 21, Pro Club level 3, hometown of Nagoya, so he's now qualified for his hometown Pro Tour later in the year. And rounding out the top 8, we have Shintaro Ishimura. If you don't know him, well, he won a Magic Online Pro Tour qualifier, and at the Mox Worlds 2010, he was Riser, so you maybe played against him online. So that's who made it in, but how they got there, that was a very different story, because after just one round, Paul Rietzel, you notice, had the killer draw, which is never good news, although better than Boni and Martell, who had a loss to start the day. 4 more rounds of standard went by, and at the end of round 5, you see Stark, Chapin and Nakada had perfect records, while Boni was way back in the field at just 3 and 2. Time to move to draft with rounds 6, 7 and 8, and by the end of day 1, Stark and Nakada had perfect records, 24 points out of 24, while Boni and Ishimura had plenty of work left to do at 6 and 2. Rietzel still with that draw, but now that draw would be good news as we head in to day 2. 3 more rounds of draft saw the last undefeated record go. Vincent Lemoine paced the field on 10 and 1, while everyone else was well within range, the 2 Japanese bringing up the rear of those who would eventually make the top 8. 3 more rounds of standard went by, and now things were becoming clear. Lemoine and Boni, they were in with draws with 2 rounds to spare. Stark, Chapin, Martell and Nakada knew they needed a win to get in, while Rietzel and Ishimura knew it was going to go right down to the wire. Penultimate round, round 15, and there you see Lemoine, Boni in, Stark, Chapin, Martell and Nakada all win. That means they could ID in the last round, and Rietzel and Ishimura, well, they were set for a real set to in round 16, which they duly won. Ishimura in an all-Japanese clash, while Rietzel had a fantastic match against Luis Scott Vargas to claim the final place in the top 8.
Vincent Lemoine's plan was to overextend into Shintaro Ishimura's deck that did not contain Day of Judgment. And that was exactly how Game 1 played out, as Goblin Guide and Squadron Hawks got in under a Mana Leak heavy hand. In Game 2, Lemoine had his Goblin Guide again, but Ishimura was able to steady himself with Ratchet Bomb, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Baneslayer Angel, evening the game score. The third game could have gone either way, but a timely land for a sword-wielding Steplings allowed Lemoine to take a 2-1 lead. Once again on the play, Ishimura had enough time to add Ratchet Bomb, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Baneslayer to sum up into a 5th and deciding game. In that game, Ishimura kept a 1-land, 2 Student of Warfare hand, and did not find any help on the mana front for about 2 turns, while Lemoine was beating down with Plated Geopede. Ishimura was able to level up one of his students, but that just hastened his demise with a pair of Mark of Mutiny for the victorious Vincent Lemoine.
So here we are with the first semi-finalist of Magic Weekend Paris 2011. It's Vincent Lemoine of Belgium. Vincent, many congratulations. How do you feel?
Thanks a lot. Really stressed because it was a tense match, 3-2, and it was really tense because each time the one that starts win the game, and so the last game was really, it starts really well with a nose, but then it didn't draw a land for 3 turns, and that makes the game.
And at the end there, you had double Mark of Mutiny to steal his Student of Warfare. The turn before you won, you must have been praying that he was going to attack with his guys so that you could get in.
Yeah, the Mark of Mutiny was the idea I found when he is starting because mostly can manalik many things in the beginning, and so normally I'm a little bit less fast. So if I can just take the Band Slayer to finish the game when he put it into play, normally it's 6 damage plus the attack, and it could be the one that make it.
You're our number 1 seed. You topped the standings in Swiss. You've been around the European Grand Prix circuit a long time and around Pro Tours. What is it that's made the difference this weekend to bring you to this new level?
I think that, I played my last Pro Tour almost 3 years ago in San Diego. At that time I was okay and I make like a 10th per Pro Tour. But now I think when I come back I'm more peaceful than before. You know, when you're young you really want to make it. Yeah. And actually here each round I take it as it comes. I know how Magic goes. I know that you can go 10-0 and then go 2-4 the next day. I do that in Bochum last 3 months ago.
Okay. So, well, we will see you again, Vincent Lemoine, into the semi-finals of Magic Weekend Paris 2011. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Great job.
Paul Rietzl felt he was such an underdog in his matchup of Boros versus Patrick Chapin's Tezzeret deck that when he made Day 2 of the Grand Prix, he did not drop from the competition. But in Game 1, Kotha the Hammer, no ultimate necessary, let Rietzl steal a tough Game 1 on the draw with 4/4 Mountains. Game 2 looked grim for Rietzl when Chapin fetched Wormcoil Engine with Treasure Mage, but he found a way to take a 2-game lead, a way best described by the Pro Tour champion himself. In the third game, he came blazing out of the gate and put the pressure on Chapin to have a Pyroclasm, but the Innovators deck did not deliver, and Rietzl took the match in 3 games, just in time for the next round of the Grand Prix pairings to be posted.
He's the hardest working man in Magic, Paul Rietzl. Paul, how many tournaments are you in today?
2 as far as I know at this point, yeah.
Just 2 so far?
2, yeah.
So 8 o'clock, you come in, you draft, you build, then you come here for the quarterfinal you can't win. How did the quarterfinal that you can't win go?
Yeah, I swept it 3-0 while getting a match loss in the Grand Prix.
Yeah. When you won Amsterdam, weren't you meant to lose that quarterfinal 3-0 as well?
Well, that matchup was a little different because Jund was supposed to be a 90% favorite over White Weenie, whereas Pat was probably around 60 or 65% to win this match, but I certainly did not expect to win 3 games on the draw. No, that was unlikely.
Yeah, that second game was one of the most extraordinary games of Magic we've ever witnessed. Yeah. Tell us about it from your perspective.
It's just wild. I mean, I almost mulliganed my opening hand. I can't remember at this point what my opening hand was, but basically the nightmare scenario is that he commits to a Wormcoil Engine in the matchup. I can't remove it. I don't have a way to first strike it, and it hits me 5 times, which is basically what happened. Yeah. And there was never a good spot for me to try to trade with it. I had to continue trying to wearing down his tumble magnets, worry about not dying, and then finally when it was a spot where I could move it onto a creature where I could eventually trade with it, start hitting it down, and then at the same time continue to work down tumble magnets when he drew the other one. The big turn, I think, was when he tapped 3 mana to play tumble magnet, then untapped them all. And so then I knew he had a tumble magnet, and so I decided to chump block his Wormcoil Engine to prevent myself from dying next turn. I would have just been dead to Wormcoil plus Creeping Tar Pit, and he did have the tumble magnet, and so the game ended up going many, many more turns because I chump blocked that turn, and eventually, just the sword took all his relevant cards out of the deck. So
absolutely astonishing. So we'll see you back at 2:30 for a semi-final. I reckon you've got 3 more rounds you can get in, maybe 2 more rounds in a draft, something like that. Did you win just then in the GP?
I did win, yeah. I just won the GP round.
So
I won the
10-2 with 1 intentional match loss. That's kind of how that works.
Yeah. I have 1 more round coming up in about a half an hour, and then a draft. I don't know if I'll be able to play it all, but I'm definitely going to have at least 1 more match loss in the GP.
1 more match loss during the semis, and then maybe a handshake during the final, and then...
Yeah. So maybe I'll squeeze out a min cash for 200 or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely unreal. Paul Rietzl just defies description, and you'll see him live in the semi-finals this afternoon. Many congratulations, an incredible job.
Thanks, Rich.
Nico Boni had to feel good in Game 1 when he opened on Quest for the Holy Relic, and was attacking with Vengevines by turn 4. But he could not overcome the control in Naoki Nakada's deck, with Tumble Magnets, Elspeth Tyrell, Sun Titan, and Gideon Jura slamming the door on his Game 1 open. In Game 2, multiple Vengevines had to make multiple trips back from the graveyard, and Nico was able to even up the score. Game 3 was more of the same from Boni, who played a pair of short-lived Glinthawks. There were no artifacts in play for him to return, so he could return a trio of Vengevines for the 2-game-to-1 lead. NAKADA's deck had plenty of removal for Boney in Game 4, and that was something that the Team World Champion could not overcome with a 4-card starting hand. In the 5th and final game, Boney only had 5 cards to start with, but Argentum Armor, with some help from a core outfitter, looked like it might be able to get there. But NAKADA was able to clear the board with Elspeth's ultimate ability and clear the path for Gideon Jura to come down and mop up, advancing NAKADA to the semifinals.
So here's Nico Boney joining us after a tough 5-game loss to Naoki Nakada of Japan. Nico, you said this morning you thought it was a difficult match.
Yeah, it pretty much was. I thought it was a good matchup, which it was. It's the first game, but after sideboarding it gets a lot harder. I guess with the first game that I should win, it's around the coin flip. So it's 50-50, and I first thought it would be much better.
And I guess at 2-1, you must have felt that it was going with you.
Yeah, it went kind of strange because the first game I actually lost, which I think I shouldn't, and the second and third game I somehow won.
So 2 top 8s for Nico now, and of course Team World Champion. So you're in good shape overall and a great start to the season. Of course, you're going to be well up there in the Player of the Year race. So a good weekend, even though you couldn't take it one step further. You must be happy with your weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it too much, and so, I mean, the top 8 is great.
Okay. Nico Boney from Switzerland, many thanks.
Thank you.
It's hard to sum up the 4th quarterfinal match between Ben Stark and Tom Martell, since the match went 3 hours and the full 5 games. But we're going to try. Game 1 was a brutal back-and-forth affair with Stoneforge Mystic, swords, and hawks on both sides. But when the dust settled, it was a celestial colonnade swinging for the win for Ben Stark. In Game 2, Martell was able to Stoneforge Mystic into Sword of Feast and Famine and play Jace on the same turn. It was too much for Stark to come back from, and they were on to Game 3. Game 3 was another mystical standoff, but Stark was able to protect Jace behind Gideon for the win. In Game 4, Stark was put into a position where he was chump blocking with his squadron of Hawks after an early sword from Martell. You just knew this was going to go to the full 5 games right from the start. In Game 5, Stark was ahead early with equipment advantage, but then it looked like Martell had wrested it away from him with Gideon Jura. But Stark had the trump for the Gideon and another Gideon, and was able to get in critical hits with his Hawk-carrying Sword of Body and Mind to advance to the semifinals.
So just the 3 hours and 5 minutes then, Ben Stark, for your quarterfinal, but I guess having won, it was worth every second.
Sure, we knew it was going to be like that. I mean, it's 5 games. Whoever's on the play first has a pretty big advantage. So we're playing the Kago Mirror almost card for card. So we expected it to go 5 games. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to go 5 games, but we thought that was pretty much the most likely scenario.
You were in your 3rd Pro Tour top 8. You've played against the best in the world over many years. Tom was in his 1st Pro Tour top 8. Did you feel that gave you an edge?
Not really. I mean, I don't really believe in intimidating people or anything. I want people to be comfortable and play the spells that they want to play when they want to play them. So, I mean, me and him are friends, teammates. So, I tried to be nice, talk, relax, don't worry, it's not like if you tap a land, you can't untap it. It's just the same magic as it always is,
Okay, so far this year, 2nd Grand Prix Atlanta, you win a draft at the Star City Open last week, then you come here.
The draft open.
The draft open.
Back-to-back draft.
So here you are, into the semi-finals. What do you do with the, couple of hours that are left before the semis?
I'm going to eat. I'm going to play test my semis match. I mean, I'm playing against a deck that I haven't played a game against, and I really don't even know what it, I know what it does, but I have no idea how the matchup's going to play out, what's important. It's similar to my deck, but it's not. I mean, he's got Tumble Magnets, only has 2 Mystics. He's got all these 5-mana Planeswalkers and no counters. So it's going to be a little different than the Kago Mirror. And I just want to get in 10 to 20 games and, hopefully have a decent feeling of what's going to happen.
Just another 10, 20 games then between now and the semi-finals.
Yeah, just
Ben
grab
Stark,
a snack.
3 hours, 5 minutes, the last semi-finalist at Magic Weekend Paris 2011.